Vishwananda Gurudev, 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 Shri Vishwananda Gurudev. Narayana mantra tumne diya hai, Ramanujacharya ke priya hai. He Prabhu tum ananta avinashi, gata gata vasi antarayami. Garuda shesha hai दास तुम्हारे, प्रभु तुम शंख चक्र गदाधारी. मत्स्य कूर्म नरसिंह तुम स्वामी, पांडुरंग बेनाम तुम्हारे. तेरा जन्म तुम लिए हो, नारायण अवतार तुम लिए हो. तुम पवित्र चरित्र कही बीते, नाथ कही की सुनाओ मैं. रंगनाथ के हो अवतारा, तुम हो प्रभु श्री रंग निवासी. महामंडलेश्वर नाम तुम्हारे, ये हो ही अकार के प्यारे. गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव, श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव, 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव. भक्ति मार्ग को तुमने दिया है, भक्तों के तुम काज सवारे. लक्ष्मी भूमि संतोषी के स्वामी, मेरा राधा भी दास तुम्हारी. आदि रात ने प्रार्थना किए, चरणों से गंगा जी लिए. गजेंद्र को तुमने बचाए, शील को स्त्री भी तुमने बनाए. रावण का तुम वध किए हो, सीता माता के तुम प्रिया हो. युग युग आते हो तुम स्वामी, तुम हो प्रभु दीन हितकारी. शबरी माता तुम्हारी प्रिया है, नगद भक्ति का ज्ञान दिया है. भक्त प्रहलाद के प्राण बचाए, हिरण्यकशिपु को मोक्ष दिलाए. गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव, श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव, 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव. मित्र सुदाम के दूत कहारे, तुम हो हरि प्राणों से प्यारे. सुखदेव गोस्वामी के दाता, भगवत में प्रभु तुम ही निवासा. द्रौपदी को तुम वस्त्र दिए हो, नारी सभा में लाज बचाए. लीला तुम्हारे अनंत है स्वामी, निज चरणों में वास दिलाए. भक्ति मार्ग की साधन दिए हो, प्रभु भक्ति के ज्ञान दिए हो. जप कीर्तन स्मरणम करने से, विठल को अवश्य मिलेंगे. एकदशी का पाद पराए, शालिग्राम के पूजा कराए. रूप तुम्हारे अनंत है स्वामी, जय 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 श्री विश्वानंद तुम्हारे. गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव, श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव, 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव. हम आए हैं द्वार तुम्हारे, निज सेवा में हम भी लगाए. श्री विश्वानंदा निलय निवासा, तुम हो प्रभु मन के प्रकाश. कुंभ मेल में तुम आए, साधु संग में हरे नहाए. वृंदावन में आश्रम बनाए, हरि आए गोपी को नचाए. कलयुग में तुम श्री विश्वानंद क्रोध मद मोह मिटाकर प्रेम भाव मन में समाकर ये इस आत्मा की है प्रार्थना और इस हृदय की है आराधना गुरुदेव गुरुदेव श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव यहाँ चली सगुरुदेव की जो कोई भक्ति बिगाए सतगुरुदेव के प्रेम से उनके चरण में ले जाए गुरु विश्वानंद श्री गिरिधारी लक्ष्मी नारायण नरसिंह देवा 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 गुरुदेव गुरुदेव श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव 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 श्री विश्वानंद गुरुदेव 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 श्री विश्वानंद那放2吧。Jai Gurudev, can you hear me now? OK， 那非常感谢大家今天又在周四的晚上我们相聚在。OK， 所以今天呢，我们非常的荣幸邀请到了这个我们的这个 Bhakti Marga 学院的首席教师 Swami Revatikaanta 来给我们做他的分享。所以今天也非常的开心和大家能够重新在此相聚。那我们现在就开始。Jai Gurudev Swami。
Jai Gurudev. Nice to see you all.
Yes, now you can already see that we have like more than 120
yes.
Followers and devotees together with us online. And it's also broadcast on Facebook at the same time. So we really thanks for your time to be here with us. It's first time and we are all very excited.
I'm very happy to be here too with you guys. I appreciate coming to spend this time with me.
Okay, so let's just treasure the time and start. So I guess everybody is quite familiar with you, at least with your voice, with your face. But we don't know that much about yourself. So we're gonna jump in the question and just ask about yourself. Like how do you meet Guruji at the first time?
Sure. Actually, I met Guruji when I was quite young. I was 15 years old. And I met him through my mother. My mother was a spiritual person, and she was looking for a job as a therapist. And we were in London at the time, in England. And there was a clinic where she applied for a job, and the owner of the clinic was Swami Karuna from England, from the UK. At the time, she was, of course, not a Swamini. And when my mother went for the job interview, there was a picture of Mahavatar Babaji on her desk, Swami Karuna. And my mother had heard about him before because of her, spiritual path. And so she asked, why there was a picture of Babaji, and Swami Karuna said, "Oh, he is the guru of my guru. And if you're interested to meet him, my guru will be in London. I think it was 2 weeks after that interview." And my mother said, "Sure, yes, of course, let's go meet him." And so she took the whole family. At that time, Guruji used to do private interviews. And what that means is that he would be in a room and he would allow either an individual or a group of people to come into the room with him, and they would have 15 minutes with him to talk about anything, ask questions, receive some personal guidance. This was possible when the mission was small. And so we went as a family. I'm originally from Brazil, and Brazilian families often live together. And so even though we were in England, my uncle went, my aunt, my grandmother, my sisters, my father, mother, everybody went. And I remember Guruji's face when we were walking into the room. He was sitting there on his chair, and it was just a never-ending queue of people walking in, just one person after the other. And he was just laughing and laughing. More people walked in the room because he was thinking there's no chance to speak to everybody in 15 minutes. And he was, of course, young as well at the time. Guruji was 26, 27. So it was, a slightly different looking Guruji at the time. In many ways the same, but in many ways younger, more full of energy and life and smiling. And it was an interesting first meeting. And I was the last person to speak to him from my family, because I was 15 and I didn't really have big, deep life questions for him. But the rest of my family did. And I remember that the last moment when he was turning to me and he was going to ask me a question, I was thinking, what could I possibly say to him? And the only thing that came to my mind was to ask him if I should continue in the same school that I was at the time or not, because I was going to school in India. I was living in India and I was only in England on holiday. And I asked him, and he says to me, "Oh, I will give you an answer in a dream." And for me, this was like the worst answer possible, because first of all, I don't dream. Second, I don't remember dreams if I do dream. And third, to me, it just seemed like a very convenient answer for a mystic spiritual person to say, "Oh yes, in a dream, I will come and give you your answer." But 2 weeks later, he did come in my dream, and it was very, very clear. And I woke up in the middle of the night because of how clear the dream was. And he just came in my dream and he said, "Hello, nice to see you again. You will not go back to your school. Goodbye." And he left, and that was the dream. It was about 10 seconds. So that was an interesting experience. I had to wake up and tell my mother, "Oh, by the way, I'm not going back to school because this Indian mystic guy came in my dream and told me that I'm not going back to school." She didn't really believe me at that point. But then I got a letter from my school a week later asking me not to come back. So yeah, that was my first sort of meeting with him. And then after that, there was many more and much bigger reasons why I ended up following him.
Okay. So you were 15. It means you were in high school or middle school?
Sure. Just transitioning. Yeah, I was in high school. Yeah.
Okay. So and I guess you were not in the spiritual path, on a spiritual path on that.
I don't know many 15-year-olds who are on the spiritual path. I mean, I had some connection because, like I said, I had family members who were serious practitioners and they were meditating, and I had been to India and spent some time at ashrams already at that point. So I definitely had an attraction for it. But if I look at my mentality and my priorities in life at that time, I was definitely not looking for God or anything like this.
Mhm. So yeah, we know that you have been living in many different countries. What
Yes.
was it's because of family reason or?
Yeah. It was always family. So I was born in Portugal because Portugal is a very popular destination for Brazilians if they want to come into Europe because we speak the same language. And so my family had gone to Portugal. So I was born there. And then after some years, maybe they didn't settle so well in Portugal. So we went back to Brazil and we spent, several years in Brazil. But then my parents divorced. And so when they divorced, my father stayed in Brazil and I went with my mother back to Portugal. I guess also to create some separation, some distance. We had a family home in Portugal as well. So I was in Portugal for some time. And then my mother, because of her spiritual path, wanted to live in India. And so she had remarried at this point with my stepfather, and she decided she wanted to live in India and visit ashrams and all of this. And so we went and we were looking to try and get a job, and it didn't work out so well for them. But of course, I needed to go to school because I was young. I had a limited holiday, and after that, I have to start school again. So they put me in what we call a boarding school. Like I live at the school, right? And so I was living at the school whilst they were trying to find a job. But then they didn't. So after 6 months, they left India to go back to Europe. And they asked me if I wanted to stay. And I said yes, because it was my first experience not being with my parents. And boarding school is a very interesting thing because my first idea was it's terrible. I live at the school. I'm never home with my family. It's terrible. But once you live there, you realize that you're just spending all the time with your friends. And there's no parents around to control you or stop you or do anything. And I thought, this is fantastic. I don't want to leave. So I stayed there for another 2 years. So I was in India for 2.5 years, whilst my parents were back in Europe. And at this point, they were living in England, which is why when I was 15, I went to my parents for holidays. And that's when I met Guruji. And that's when things changed. So I ended up staying in England instead of going back to India, like he said in the dream. And so I finished my education in England till I was 18, and I was about to go to university in London. I wanted to go to the same university that Guruji went to, because Guruji also went to university in London.
The Princess.
King's College School. And I was going to go there, but Guruji had a different plan. He invited me to spend a year at the ashram, to take a break before going to university and spend a year at the ashram. And I did, and I never left. So still there. It's been a long year.
Wow, that's really impressive experience.
Sure. As a young person, actually, it was interesting. I was afraid every time moving countries, to lose your friends, lose your familiarity, and always have to find new friends and all of this. But actually, when I look back, I really, really value it. It made me a much more mature person. I learned a lot about different cultures and different people, and it makes you, in my opinion, much more ready to face the world and to live in this world than if you're just in one place all the time. It's not a criticism; it's just an observation from my side. And I was afraid then, and these days I'm grateful for it.
Sure. So just one small curiosity: how many languages can you speak?
Depends to what standard. I would say
normal communication in daily life.
Yeah, I would say normal, probably about 3, but I can probably squeeze another 2, maybe 5 total.
So it's I guess English.
I can do Portuguese, English, and Spanish to a very good level. And my German and my French is okay.
Wow. Yes, that's really impressive. So then you just agree with Guruji and you move into the ashram. And so is there like a crucial point that you consider Guruji as your guru, like you are?
Yes. Yeah. I think there was an important moment in my life where I stopped seeing him as just this, impressive person, but really my spiritual master. And it actually happened not so long after I met him. So I met him when I was 15, as you know, and a year later, I was arrested. I went to prison, and that was because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was completely innocent. I hadn't committed any crime, but
Oh, that's everybody's.
everybody says this. Everybody says this. But
everybody in prison say that.
I have to say this. I'm live on Facebook. I cannot say anything else. But no. I was innocent, and actually that was a big reason as to why I started following Guruji. Because to cut the story short in a sort of simple format, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, as I said, and I saw somebody committing a crime. Now, in the UK, at least, the law is such that if you see somebody committing a crime, but you don't stop them or you don't report it, then you are automatically an accomplice, somebody who is doing the crime with them. So then you also get punished the same way. And so, small detail, I did not report it and I did not call anybody because this is maybe my true crime in that moment. I was completely drunk. And so for being so drunk, I was not in any kind of position to be able to respond properly to the situation. So what happened was, as I said, I was arrested and I was interviewed, and I said, look, I saw this person committing this crime. And the punishment for that crime was probably around 8 years in prison. And
really?
Yeah.
For not talking.
It was not a small crime.
Wow,
so
that's a strict system.
So the person was also interviewed by the police, and the person said, no, I didn't make the crime. He did. The person said, I did it, right? So it was just one person's word against the other, and police investigation and all of these kind of things. So what happened was that for a short amount of time during this process, it was a 6-month process of interrogations, constantly in and out of the police station. We were told by both our lawyers that we were not allowed to speak about any details of the case to anybody because it's risking things. It seemed like manipulation of support and evidence and all this kind of stuff. So we just had to keep quiet. The problem was everybody in my life thought I was guilty, and I was not allowed to talk about it. So I couldn't defend myself. And so this was something that changed my life completely. I was 16 at this time. And so for the 6 months between 16 and 17, I my birthday passed as well in the meanwhile. I lost everything. I lost all my friends. I lost contact with almost everybody except my family. But it wasn't just losing it, because I started to be treated like a criminal. I was treated badly by people, right? And so this was really sort of a shocking experience to me, because I was innocent, and it made me feel very out of love with normal life, because I was looking at this and thinking, it all looks wonderful. I was popular in school. I have many friends, so many activities to do all the time. And then in one night, it's finished. I'm in a situation where I might still go to prison for 8 years. I have no guarantees that I will not go. I've already experienced now almost 6 months of complete isolation from people and being treated like a terrible person. Again, not going to go into details about how that was, but it definitely made me look at life in a different way. I was less attracted by the glamour of, oh yes, social life and friends and let's go out and party and all of these things, because look what it did to me, right? And so I met Guruji, because I was looking for solutions. I was looking for hope, for help. And of course, my mother said, you have to speak to Guruji. You know, he can help you. He's the magic man. And so I was thinking, okay, fine, we go to Guruji. And so I went to a Guruji darshan, and I went to him and I told him everything that happened. And he said to me, okay, I'm going to give you the solution for your problem. I thought, fantastic, great. The magic man is going to solve everything. And he says to me, the solution to your problem is that I don't want you to worry. And that was it. That's all he said. Now, again, I had an even worse reaction to this than I did the dream answer last time, because I was thinking, really, I have no friends. I'm getting treated like rubbish. I'm going to maybe go to prison for 8 years. And your big wise solution is, don't worry. But okay. So I went home and I worried, and nothing improved and nothing fixed. And it was a tough time. And then finally I got a letter from my lawyer, and my lawyer said, you know, we will have the final verdict in about a couple of weeks. And, you know, I wish you the best of luck. He wasn't very positive. Yeah. In his opinion, he thought that both of us were going to be, you know, termed as guilty. Yeah. And coincidentally, Guruji announced a surprise darshan in England the same time, before my final, verdict was passed by the judge. And so I said, okay, you know, last try. I go to him again. It's been 6 months since I saw him. Let's try one more time. And so I went to him, and I decided, you know, maybe last time I wasn't convincing enough. I didn't look like I was sad enough. So I have to really present myself like I'm suffering. I'm really going through a tough time. And so I remember being in the queue for the darshan. And you have to understand, these darshans were big. There was like 1,500 people. And he remembered me sort of every time. He would see me, he would call me by my name. My birth name was Stefan. And so he was always calling me, you know, oh, Stefan, nice to see you. So anyway, I go for darshan finally, and he sees, oh, how are you, Stefan? And I said, not so good, Guruji. My problem is still not solved. And now, you know, in 2 weeks, it's going to be finalized, etc. And he says to me, oh, but I gave you the solution, didn't I? And I said, well, I mean, you told me not to worry, Guruji. And he says, and what did you do? And I worried. I said, very bad, very bad. But he got angry with me, like not angry, but upset. It was the first time I saw him upset at anybody, but, you know, especially at me. And he says, okay, look, this time I'm going to give you the solution, but you better do it. Yeah, you have to do it. And I said, okay, fine. And, you know, many of the devotees had told me that Guruji likes to test people. He likes to play games. And I thought, okay, maybe this was like a 6-month test. Now he gives the real solution. He will tell me some secret mantra, or maybe some special practice or technique that I can do that will, you know, solve the whole situation. And so he calls me in very close to whisper in my ear. He says, okay, so the solution is, don't worry. So I had the same problem.
Like, control it.
But, you know, my opinion, my attitude was, okay, fine. I have 2 weeks left. I tried everything. Who cares? Fine, I won't worry. And so he says to me, sit next to me and help me with the darshan. Because in that time, especially, all the darshans will always give a sweet and a flower and all these different items. And so he asked me to sit next to him and help him with that. So my mind was not on the problem. I was just helping him. And so many people coming to Guruji crying. And it was just a beautiful moment. I was just sitting there seeing, wow, this man is so special for so many people. And I was just feeling really like in a special space. The darshan finished around midnight. This was a Saturday, so Saturday going to Sunday. And he says to me before we were leaving, he turns to me and he says, would you like to have dinner with me? And I said, yes, of course. It was the, you know, I didn't even think that he eats. I was like, oh, yeah, he must eat food. Yeah. So he says, yeah, come have dinner with me. So I went and I had dinner with him. and it was me and like 20 other people. So he didn't speak to me, but I was just, happy to be in his presence. So we finished maybe at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Now Sunday, yeah. And we had to drive home. So my mother, she also came for the dinner because I was 17, I didn't drive. So my mother had to come with me. And then we went home, and I remember, I think I fell asleep around 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. At 6 o'clock, there was a knocking on the door. And I woke up and I go down to see who it is, and it was the postman. And I thought, this is really strange, because the postman doesn't work on a Sunday, first of all. And second, he would not come at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, even if he was going to work. And the third point was that he only had one letter in his hand, and the door to our house has a letterbox where you can just put the letter in, right? So why is he knocking on the door? This makes no sense. So my first thought was he must be a criminal. He's a thief, yeah? But then I was thinking, if he is a thief, he is the worst thief in the world. Why would you dress like a postman on a Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning? Like, surely surely there's better times to do this. So I was just curious, and I opened the door, and he said to me, okay, fine, here you go. This letter's for you. And I took the letter, and really it had my name on it. And the postman just left. So he wasn't a thief. He didn't want to come in. And so I sat there, and I opened the letter, and it was from my lawyer. And the lawyer basically said in the letter, I have great news. The case has been dropped. You are innocent, and you're free to go. And I thought, okay, strange. And I checked the date of the letter, and it had Sunday. It was written on Sunday, signed by the lawyer, and it arrived to me at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, maybe this is a prank, a joke from, some of my old friends. Maybe they did something like this just to, tease me. So I decided to get in touch with my lawyer. So I wanted to write to him or call him to ask if this was true. And so I wrote to him, and he says, that's really strange, because it's true. I got a message last night from the police that your case has been dropped, but I didn't write any letter. I was going to write to you on Monday. And I said, okay, but it is true. Like, the case has been dropped. He said, yeah, it has. And I said, what time? He says, I got a message late last night. It was around maybe 9:30, 10. And this was about half an hour after I got darshan from Guruji. And I was thinking, okay, so maybe this is the magic man everybody was telling me about. I have to now talk to him, because it's the only possible explanation. I already talked to my lawyer. He said it's true that the case has been dropped and I'm free, but he himself did not write the letter. The date of the letter is Sunday. It's been delivered on a Sunday. This makes no sense. So I need to call Guruji, but I don't have Guruji's number, of course. I didn't even know if he had a phone, right? So I start calling devotees, asking you, please give me Guruji's phone number. And of course, they are all saying no. Of course, they are all in a bad mood, because I'm calling them at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And they also just came from a darshan the night before that finished at midnight. And so everybody's very tired. Finally, one devotee says to me, okay, I'll give you the number, but don't tell anybody. And don't tell him who gave it to you. And I said, okay, no problem. So then finally around 7 o'clock, I get Guruji's number. I call him. I'm saying, and he picks up the phone. And I speak to him, and I say, Guruji, look, something amazing happened. And I start to tell him the story. I said, look, a postman came 6 o'clock in the morning, blah, 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 blah. And he interrupts me. And he says, yeah, I know. And I said, no, but let me finish the story. It's incredible. So then I opened the letter, and he says, yes, I know. I sent him. And I remember having the first thought was like, I sent him. Guruji works at the post office? And then I said, oh, of course not. No, he doesn't mean that. And And I got emotional, and I thanked him. I just said, it's incredible. I wish I had not worried 6 months ago. I would have saved myself 6 months of problems. And I said to him in that moment of raw emotion, you have to understand, I was thinking I was going to go to prison for 8 years. And so to suddenly sit there and have it all disappear in one night, the problem, it was a very intense moment for me. And I said to him on the phone, please ask me for anything. I will do anything to pay you back, to pay my debt to you. And the minute I said it, I just immediately started panicking. I thought, what did I just say? This is a big mistake, because for sure, he's going to ask me to do the one thing that I don't want to do. He's going to ask me to become a monk. And he did not ask me that, luckily. Okay. That's what I was afraid of, because at 17, trust me, I was not, trying to be a monk. So he said to me, no, he said, what is, no, he even said to me, are you sure? When I said, ask me for anything, he said, are you sure? But now I had already said it. So I thought, oh, yes, I'm sure, Guruji. And then he says to me, okay, fine. So why did this problem happen? And I said to him, it happened because I was drunk. And he says, exactly. So my request to you is that you never drink alcohol again. And I said, easy, no problem. Give me the water, give me the juice, give me the Coca-Cola. I am happy, no problem. Don't need alcohol anymore, because right there, you have to understand, I was feeling completely relieved that he didn't ask me to become a monk. So alcohol for me was easy, no problem. And so he said, okay, great, thank you. Okay, bye, I'm busy. So he put down the phone. And I just sat there for like a good 5 minutes, and I started crying, and I realized, wow, like, first of all, he fixed it when nobody else could fix it. And I then gave him the chance to abuse me. I gave him the chance to ask anything from me, and I would have done it. I had to, I promised him. And he asked for nothing for him. He just told me to do something that will only help me. It does nothing for him. And so, yeah, that was the moment when I really decided that I wanted to follow him. I didn't know what that would mean at that time, but it was the moment where I decided that for me, it was going to be a serious thing. And it didn't matter what direction my life would take. What was important to me is that he has to be at the center of it.
Well, that's really a big story. Yeah, like you said, Guruji did you a favor, and then when you want to return this favor, and he's still doing something that is beneficial for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's our Guru. Then I guess many of us are wondering, like, because such a, how to say, because we all watched many courses taught by you, so we know that you are so very systematic, logic. You have a very strong mind, very like powerful mind. How about your experience for surrendering? I mean, like admit that he is your guru is one thing, but but there is and then it's a big step to the surrendering. So, yeah.
First of all, I would not consider myself surrendered. I try to surrender, and my mind makes it more difficult than it should, but I keep trying. You say that I'm a very logical person or strong-minded. That's because you know me now. I don't think I've always been like this, and it's something that I have become in a way because of Guruji, actually. And sometimes people don't see that, because Guruji comes across as a very heart-based person. It's all about love, right? And that's true, but you have to remember, I met him when I was 15. I came to live in his ashram when I was 18, the minute I finished school, and I've lived here ever since. I've lived longer with Guruji than I lived with my family, right? And to me, he is many things, but one of those things is that he's also a father. and he has made me the way that I am. And so people find that difficult to believe, that he could make somebody so logical or mind-based or whatever. And it's like, well, I like to say it this way. I don't see myself as a mind-based person at all. I am very much heart-based, but I think that the heart doesn't need to be ignorant of the mind. I think the heart can be informed by the mind. And I think a combination of the two is very, very important. I think that the way that this developed was because there was a need. Most of the people that followed Guruji followed because they loved him. Finished. Not because they understood anything, not because they had real questions that they needed real answers for. They just met him and they felt attraction. They felt that he was a special being, or they had a feeling. And that's all very good. The problem is, though, feelings come and go. And so sometimes when that feeling disappears, people need something else to anchor themselves on. And he shaped me to be somebody that could help people get that part. It doesn't mean that it's the part I believe is most important. It isn't. I don't believe your mind is more important than your heart at all. But I believe that the mind needs to be trained, and it needs to be a good support for your heart. And so he made me into a teacher. He made me study. He made me make my effort. And of course, I had my own, desire to serve him. And this was the direction it took. And eventually he opened the academy at the time. This was 2015, and he asked me to lead it. And I took that responsibility very seriously. But I was not always like this at all. If you wanted me to read a Bhagavad Gita, I would laugh at you. There was a specific moment, I think, that really changed that. We were in India in 2013, Guruji and I, and he wakes up in the morning and he says, "Do you want to come for a japa walk with me?" And I said, "Yes." And so we just get our japa bags, and me and him alone, we go walking in India, and it was beautiful. And I remember sitting there, not saying anything, just feeling special. I'm with my guru. We are walking these dusty roads of a holy city, chanting God's name. This is life. Yeah, like this is the pinnacle of spirituality. And about 10 minutes later, I get interrupted by an old man, a devotee, a local Indian. And he says to me, "So you're a devotee of Krishna?" And I said, yes. Proudly, I said, yes. I had my tilak and my japa bag. And he says to me, "Oh, really? So how many chapters does Bhagavad Gita have?" I had no idea. I never read the Bhagavad Gita. So I said to him, "I don't know." He says, "You don't know? Ah. And what is the message of the Bhagavad Gita?" And I said, "Love," because I thought love is the right answer for every spiritual question, right? So I just said, "Love." And he says, "Love. And then the old man looks at me and he says, "It's very easy to say you are a devotee of Krishna, but to really be a devotee of Krishna, not so easy." And he walks away. And Guruji is just watching all of this. And so he watches me and he has this look of complete disappointment. Like I shamed him, really, like I had embarrassed him. And I felt like I wanted the earth to just open up. I could fall inside and just close again. Like I wanted to disappear. Because, to bring shame to your guru, to your father, to somebody who you care about and love so much, it was a terrible feeling. And I realized in that moment, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to be in this position again. And so if I need to just pick up a book and turn some pages and read something, then yeah, I can do that. If you're asking me to be perfect, and you ask me to be surrendered and humble and all of this, maybe I will fail in that. Maybe that's not so easy for me to do. But to read a book, yeah, I can do that, And so that was my decision. And I started to make my effort, and he started to help me and to bless me so that I could grow quicker. And it very quickly sort of avalanched into this position where 2 years later I was teaching the Bhagavad Gita, and he made me, training other swamis and doing all of this. And it happened really quickly. Now, back to your question, which was, how can the logical mind person surrender or make this extra step, so to speak? Because it's the most sensible thing to do. You see, logical people do what is logical. So all you have to do is understand the logic. Look at it from my perspective. I lived in this world. I enjoyed what the world had to offer. I was somebody who had a lot of potential in this world. I didn't have too many difficulties. I didn't grow up rich, but I was intelligent. And I had enough about me and enough possibilities to do probably whatever I wanted to do. Okay? If I really put my mind to it. But one night of innocent enjoyment almost ruined my entire life, if it was not for this man. You think it's smart as an investor to invest in this type of life that can be stolen from you in any moment without your control, and you can do nothing to stop it, even though you're innocent? I don't trust this. I don't trust this world. I don't trust the systems of this world. I don't trust the human beings that run this world, because they are flawed. And so a rational, logical person tries to find an alternative. Is there an alternative? If there is no alternative, then I have to make my best of this situation. But an alternative was presented to me. And that was Paramahamsa Vishwananda and the life that he had to offer. All he said to me was, at that time, I want you to have what I have. And I said to him, can you show me? And he said, yes. That was all I needed to know, to begin the journey, not to surrender, but to begin. Do I want what he has? The answer for me was yes. Why? Because I would look at him and I would see a smile on his face that I would see on nobody else's face. Nobody else was as happy as he was. And when I asked him why he was happy, he didn't give me the same answers that everybody else gave me. I asked many people why they were happy. My family members, my friends, everybody around me. They all said because of their job, because of where they live, because of their family, because of so many things. That was never Guruji's answer. When I asked him, why are you happy? And he says, because I know myself and I know where I come from. So I said to him, I want that too. Can you show me? Yes, I can show you. So that's how it began. Now, as you begin any kind of scientific experiment, you have to see some results. If there's no results, then you have no motivation to continue the experiment, right? Now, what were the results that I saw? Again, logically, basic. Did I need much in my life to be happy? No. I didn't need to be out doing something every day. I didn't need to have many things, and yet I was still happy. That was new. That was a new experience. Was I so egoistic? No. I started to become more selfless, somebody who's more willing to help and to serve and to be useful to other people. And this made me happy. And that was not something that the world was teaching me to do. The world was teaching me to be selfish, not selfless, telling me that that's how you're going to be happy. But the quality of happiness I was experiencing from being selfless was much higher than the quality of happiness that I was experiencing from being selfish. So that also played in my favor. As I continued, I realized more benefits that were coming. For example, one of the big benefits that really sort of made a huge difference in my life was how easily we are hurt in this world. So what I mean by that is somebody just says one offensive thing to me, right? And that can ruin my day. It can ruin my week, my month, whatever, because I'm so egocentric. My image, my reputation is so important to me because in the world out here, that's all I have. It's my image, my reputation, my perception from my boss, from my family, from my friends. And if that suddenly gets put into question, then who will accept me? Who will love me? Who will still be there with me when I'm no longer popular or I'm no longer the good guy because now I'm a criminal, for example? My friends all abandoned me. They were such good friends. And the minute I became labeled a criminal, where were they? Yeah. But I tell you who was there. Guruji, he didn't care. And this is the point. I started to understand that these kind of these games of the outside just no longer attract me, and they didn't touch me the same way. And so Guruji is somebody who's worked that his whole life with me. He loves to offend me, or to try to offend me. So he'll say anything at me. Oh, today you smell bad. Oh, today you look fatter. Today you look older. He'll say anything just to provoke a reaction out of me, just to see, am I still playing that ego game where I care? Oh, my guru said I'm fat. I now need to go and lose 10 kilos. Yeah. For what? To get my ego's approval? To get my guru's approval? I know he loves me, whether I'm 10 kilos less or more. But can I say the same about my wife or my husband or whoever? Not always. Because I was judged by appearance, by competencies, by intelligence, by so many things. Like we all are, right? And so if I'm a person who is in pursuit of happiness, then logically I have to find the highest quality of happiness. Logically, I have to find the most secure source of happiness, meaning where can I find that happiness that does not end? How stable is that happiness? How real is that happiness? And how much has that happiness got quality? What is the quality of that happiness? And all of those answers kept being Guruji, 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 when I compared them to everything else that was available in my life. So logically, if I want happiness, then I'm going to go to Guruji, yes, because the other sources are just inferior.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, since you have been by Guruji's side for such a long time, so many years, what would be you consider as the strongest experience, or like the most shocking experience?
It's difficult to make a ranking of shocking experiences, right? You are right. I have lived a lot with him, and I have seen a lot, and many different experiences have shocked me or touched me in different ways. Yeah, there are some that have inspired me a lot, and some that have challenged me a lot. There's probably a couple that come to my mind. I would say first, the day in January of 2012 when Guruji materialized a deity of Narasimha from his heart for me. This was at the time when he had not really done this so often. I mean, he had done it in his life, but since then he has maybe done it 15 times for different devotees at different moments. But that was one of the first ones here in Europe, and it was not an experience that I'd ever heard anybody share before. So there was no stories about how he does it or anything like that, and so it happened to me, and I was shocked. Yes, I was shocked, and I can tell you about that experience in a little bit. But I would say it depends what I'm looking for. I have seen him do miracles like this deity materialization, for example, that have greatly helped me take huge steps forward. Because your mind, the mind of any human being, you may hear these stories, you may even receive a ring from him or something like this, but the mind can always justify. The mind can always say, yeah, but is it really true? Is it real? I mean, he could have just taken it from his pocket. I heard some other stories, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But when you have something done in front of your face to a way that it cannot be faked, right? As I have had so many times, you are forced to make a decision. Life forces you to make a decision. Do I reject what my own senses are telling me, or do I accept them? And if I accept, there has to be a consequence to that choice. So I'll give you a few examples. On my 24th birthday, I wanted a gift from Guruji because it's my birthday. And he's my father, so he better give me a gift, right? And it was 11:30 at night, almost ending my birthday, and he didn't even wish me happy birthday yet. And I was thinking, Guruji, you're running out of time. 11:50, 11:55, 11:57, 58. Ah, Revati, it's your birthday, isn't it? I said, yes. Happy birthday. Come here. And so I go to him, and he goes like this with his hand, and he makes me a ring. And he looks at the ring, starts like counting, going like this. Ah, good. And then he gives it to me. So I look at it, and I'm trying to understand what he was counting. And he sees this confusion in my face, and he says, count the stones. So I start counting the stones, and there was 24 stones. He says, see, you're 24 today, no? I said, yes. So enjoy. So I said, oh, nice, Guruji. Then what happens? My 30th birthday, COVID. I have COVID. I'm in my room, locked down. And so he comes to my window, because I have a window to the ground floor. So he comes outside my window. He's knocking on my window. Says, happy birthday, through the glass, right? Because I can't open the window. If I open the window, I'm going to give him COVID, right? So he says to me, how old are you today? I said, 30. He said, okay. Open the window a little bit. So I opened the window a little bit. The hand starts moving. And he makes an Om pendant. Yeah, I don't know if you can see. Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, this Om pendant, right? So he gives it to me. And I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, Om, nice. And he's like, what does it look like? And I said, I don't know. 30, 30, no? And I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, he just gives me the thumbs up and goes away, right? I was with him once at a gas station, petrol station, right, in France. And he has to put petrol in the car. And we needed to pay for it. And he looks at me, he's like, okay, pay for it. I said, Guruji, I don't have any money. He said, you don't have any money? He says, I don't know if I have money. And I said, this is a problem now. And so I get Guruji's bag and I'm looking inside, there's no money. And I said, Guruji, what do we do now? We run away? We get in the car and we just drive away like criminals? And he says, no, we can't do this. They have cameras, right? But only because there's cameras. If there was no cameras, we run away. No, I'm joking. So then he says, okay, we have to find a solution then. And he starts going like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And I said, what, Guruji? If I need the money, it can be arranged, but it's not good to do it like this. I don't like to do these things. And I said, what things, Guruji? So he puts his hand inside his bag and he starts going like this, right? And then his hand comes out and he has exactly the money that we need for the petrol. He's okay, go, pay. And I go and pay and I come back and he's in a bad mood. He says, I don't like to use these things for myself. It's only for other people. And I said, look, you were doing it for me. Don't worry. I needed to get in the car and go also. It's not just you. So, we can make the logic like this. And so there was just, look, like these experiences, I've had so many of just small things like this, where we went to a shop in France and they were selling rings and Guruji was looking at the rings because he says, I want to see the competition. And he's just looking at the rings and he's like, oh, this is bad design. This one is not good design, blah, 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 blah. And I see one ring with a color of a stone. I love it. And I said, Guruji, I always wanted a ring with that color stone. And he said, oh, really? And I said, yes. He said, oh, okay. 20 minutes later, the guy says, okay, come here. So I go to him and he makes me a ring with that exact stone color. I said, thank you. Okay. He made this grumpy sort of expression. And I've had 50 experiences, honestly. And you come to a point where when somebody asks me, oh, you're such a logical person, why do you follow him? because I have more evidence of him being real than anything else being real in my life. It's more logical to follow that than anything else. I would have to be completely illogical and ignore everything that my senses have perceived for 10 plus years to not follow him, to not surrender. It takes more faith for me not to believe in him than to believe in him. You understand my point? Now,
Yes.
most shocking, is, as I told you, I have with my own hand put my hand on his chest, and a hot deity comes out of his chest onto my hand. Yeah, metal coming out of a man's chest. It's quite shocking to experience, for example. Yeah, and your mind cannot, explain something like this. What am I going to go sit here and tell you all? Well, scientifically, I'll tell you what happened. The molecules inside his chest formed into metallic substances, and it's rubbish. Nobody here knows how it happened. Nobody sitting here, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter what intelligence you have, you cannot sit here and explain to me how he did it. The fact is that he produced a metal deity of my Ishtadev Narasimha coming straight out of his chest onto my hand. Right? So these kind of experiences, yes, they're shocking. Are they the reason that I love him? No. They are a reason why I believe that he comes from a reality and he knows a reality that I don't know. Yes. Does it make me trust in what he has to say? Yes. But it's not why I love him. I don't love him because he makes beautiful rings. And I don't surrender to him because he makes sense. I surrender to him because I love him. It's the same thing when we want to marry somebody. Part of that decision has to be logic. It has to make sense. But the bigger part of it is that it has to also be a feeling. You have to also love the person, right? It's a marriage of both things, sense and feeling, but the feeling has to be stronger. Yeah. And it's the same here. My heart is here. My heart is very much in this path. My mind is also switched on, but my mind does not matter as much as my heart. My heart has to matter much more. And the reasons why I love him is because he is 100% committed to making me everything that I can be, even when I try to sabotage that every time. Because of my ego, because of my pride, because of my desires, I have made so many problems for him and me in our relationship over the years. But he never gives up. He never, sends me away or whatever. He just continues to be 100% committed to making the best version of me possible. And I love him for it.
Speak of sabotage. Now I can already notice that in the chat box, so many envy for your experience with Guruji. So in order to remove some evil eyes from you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I'm gonna ask a quite private question. You can choose to answer or not.
Yeah.
It's just we heard that you were initiated twice as a rishi. Maybe let's put it like this way. Would you consider it's like a big setback?
At the time, yes. It's, again, when you're in the moment, things appear to be one way, and later on you can look back and be grateful for things happening in your life, even the tough moments. But yeah, for sure, at the time I considered it a big setback. Yes. I can tell you what happened very briefly. I was a brahmachari at the age of 17. Shortly after that prison experience, I decided to become a brahmachari, and I did. And it didn't last very long because, to be honest with you, it was not really motivated by the best reasons. I was 17 years old, right? I didn't know too much about life. I made a commitment because in that moment I felt it. But there was no consideration for, my life experiences that I may want to have, I did not know what I had not yet experienced, if that makes sense, right? And so shortly after that, I asked Guruji if I would have his permission to exit brahmacharihood, to not be a monk anymore, and enter into a relationship. And he gave me the blessing to do that. So I was in a relationship for approximately 3 years. And at the culmination of that relationship, I mean, I was looking forward to getting married. At the end of that relationship, I had this strong feeling that I am divided. I am split between my commitment to the person I was with and my commitment to Guruji, because when I love, I like to believe that I love very sincerely and very strongly. And so I don't easily forgive myself if I'm not able to give a person that I love 100% of myself, right? And so I felt conflicted, divided. I knew that there were moments that I was with my partner where I could have been with Guruji. There were moments that I was with Guruji that I could have been with my partner. And this was starting to affect my mind a lot. And so I went to Guruji and I spoke to him about that. And I said, look, I feel like I have to make a choice at this point. I don't think I can do both at the same time. Some people can, please understand. This is not me saying that, you know, everybody is like me. And I'm not even saying that my version of myself today in 2022 is the same as the version of me back then. But back then I couldn't do it. And so I chose him. And I said to Guruji, I would like to sort of recommit myself exclusively to you. And he was very happy. And he says, okay, no problem. So I will make you a brahmachari tomorrow. And then I will initiate you as a rishi. And
the same day?
Same day. And so we did it. The next day we were in India. We went to a Narasimha temple and he did the initiation at the temple. And I became a brahmachari and a rishi. And it lasted one day. Because on the evening of that day of initiation, he tested me. And he says to me, you know, you ended a 3-year relationship on the phone. Because of course I was in India. My partner was not in India at the time. And he said, you know, that's not very nice. Maybe we should wait and you should end it in person, right? When we get back to Germany, that's more respectful. And then after that, we can do the initiation again, right? But it was a test. And I said to him, oh, you know, my first feeling was, no, Guruji, it's okay. You know, she understands and everything is fine. But that whole night I was thinking, he played the right test on me, because as I told you, I struggle to forgive myself if I don't give 100% of myself to the people that I love. And I felt it's true. I have disrespected her. Yeah, Guruji has pressed the right button. He has shown me that I did something that I'm not happy about, right? I should do this in a more correct way. So the next morning I went to him and I said, I accept your suggestion, Guruji. I'll go back and speak to her in a more respectful way, and then we can do the initiation again. And he says to me, take off your red clothes. You will never get them again. It's finished. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, what test was there? You are already initiated. What is this behavior? I already initiated you yesterday. And I invited you. What do you think? Maybe you want to cancel the initiation and talk to her again? And you said yes, after one night, after one day. This is how strong your decision for initiation was, that it only took one day for you to change your mind already, right? So he said, finished. No more rishi. And so we went back to Germany and that was it. He said that I had to earn my way back. I had to ask for his forgiveness, for the Divine Mother's forgiveness, because I was initiated at their temple of Lakshmi Narasimha, and that I had to become clear. I had to become clear in my heart, in my mind, and he was right. And so it was years. It was years that passed until I was able to find clarity in my heart again. And when I did, he initiated me a second time. And it was a surprise to me because he had said I would never again wear it. But he called me and he said, look, I'm happy with you and I want to initiate you as a rishi again. And he did. And 6 months later, he made me a Swami. And I didn't know about that either. It was a surprise initiation. But yeah, that's another story. But yeah, that was why I was initiated 2 times as a monk, because my first initiation as a monk, I was very young. And then I stepped out of it, like I said, with his blessing. And then when I stepped back in to monk life, I was not in a clear state of mind. It was more of an impulsive feeling that I had not yet matured, in my mind. And so I needed more years to mature that. And when I had matured it, Guruji reinitiated me, and here I am today. Yeah. So 2 times brahmachari, 2 times rishi, 1 time Swami so far.
Very important so far.
Well, I hope it's not changing, but yes.
Wow. We really appreciate your openness to share this.
Sure.
With us. Yeah, I guess it's when you speak about that, it reminds me that many of us, when we heard Guruji say something, we're always wondering, is it a test or is it a dish? Like, should I follow or it's a trick? So, but in your case, like he told you clearly afterwards that it was a test.
Yes.
But many of us were struggling. Like when Guruji said something, we're struggling, like it's a test. Should I do or not? Or it's a dish. So do you have a suggestion for us, like who are not so close with Guruji by his side, like physically?
You were saying earlier about the evil eyes, right? That people might be jealous because of my experiences and rings and whatever else. Obviously, I understand you, sort of where that comes from. But I'll also share with you another experience. We were in Vrindavan just before COVID, and at the time, perhaps you know him, Prithu, Param Jyoti Das, right? He was recently arrived into Bhakti Marga. He was not long with Guruji. And we were sitting, a few of us, maybe 6 or 7 of us, late at night. And he turns to Guruji and he says, Guruji, I have a strange question to ask you. He always asks questions, right? And so Guruji said, yes, what's your question? And he says, shouted at the most in your life? And he said, is it Aradhika? Because he wanted to tease his friend, Aradhika, right? And Guruji said, Aradhika? No. For sure, I shouted at him, but he's not number 1, right? And when Prithu asked this question, I'm in the room, in the corner behind, and I just looked, to the floor, sort of looking away, because I knew what was coming. And then Guruji says, number 1, that person. And he points at me sitting in the corner. And Prithu was shocked. He said, Swami Revati? He said, yes. He said, but I never saw you shouting at him. And Guruji said, do I have to do everything in public? I said, I guess not. So you see, there's 2 sides to this coin. You can want the experiences that I've had, but they come with another side. You cannot just take one side of the coin. Yeah. On the other side, I am also the person that has been corrected or shouted at or, purified through the fire in that moment by Guruji's words the most. And that's not for everybody the easiest thing or the most desirable thing. So, maybe if you had envy before, maybe that can be measured down a little bit with these situations. Okay. Back to your question and advice about when to know when Guruji is testing or not. There is one thing I'll tell you that I'm clear about from Guruji. He wants every one of us to reach God. He wants every one of us to know who we are. He will always do every push us in this direction. is this: I always believe everything that he says. I prefer to make a mistake because I took it seriously than to make a mistake because I tried to be too intelligent and interpret his word meanings and all of this kind of thing. Yeah. So personally, I'm not a big fan of the, oh, it's a test from Guruji mentality. Yeah. I prefer to just treat everything as an adesh or as a serious comment, unless the thing he is saying contradicts that most fundamental point about him that I know in my heart, which is he will always push me to God. So for example, if he turns to you and says, I think maybe this exclusive service and this dedication is too much for you. Maybe it's better if you go back to the world, leave the ashram, get a nice job, get a family. I think that's what's best for you. Yeah. If he would say something like that to me, I'd say, no. I don't believe you. And he might even insist, no, Revati, it's good. Trust me. Trust what I'm saying. No, I don't believe. Because there are many things about Guruji I don't understand. I may be with him 16 years. It doesn't matter. There are many things about him I have no idea. But the one thing I know for sure is that he is always only interested in pushing me towards God and nothing else. If he now comes to me and tells me to do something which is opposite to that, I don't accept. This for me is the temptation, the testing, all of this. Yeah. And I have seen him do that. I know that what I'm saying is risky because somebody might feel like they want to interpret things too much. I have seen too much, Ramdasi. I have heard too much to simply believe certain things that come out of his mouth sometimes. I'll give you an example. Swami Chidananda, who is now Swami, of course, was not Swami at this time of this experience. He was Rishi Chidananda. And he was sitting with Guruji. And Guruji says to him, Rishi Chidananda, why don't you leave, monasticism? I don't think being a monk is right for you. I think you should get a job, have a nice family, make good children, devotee children, and, be happy. He was inviting him. And Chida was saying, no, Guruji, I don't want, blah, blah, blah. And Guruji said, no, really, it will be so good for you. Yeah, so listen, your own guru is telling you, oh, it is so good, do it. And Chida, no, I don't feel it's the right thing, etc. And Guruji saying, yes, but I'm your guru. I'm saying it's very good. Yeah, listen how far the test goes. I'm your guru. I'm telling you. Yeah. And Rishi Chida was like, very much unclear about it. He left the room. Yeah. And Guruji turns to me and he just starts shaking his head. And he says, you saw that? Because the last thing Rishi Chida was, Guruji, if it is your will, I will do it. Yeah, if it is your will, I do it. And Guruji starts shaking his head and he says, he should know better what is my will. Yeah, my will is not for you to do that. Why should I will for you to go back into the world when I took you out of it? Why should I will for you to go and make new karma when I'm trying to finish your karma? I'm just testing. You should be so clear. No, Guruji, I only want your feet and God. I know that is what you have taught me. So that even when Guruji says those words, you can say to Guruji, no. That's what he wanted to hear. And obviously it worked. Today, Rishi Chidananda is Swami Chidananda, right? But the point I make there is no black and white rule for how you can detect a test from Guruji. The only advice I can give is that he will always, the true Guruji will always push you to God. And if he's pushing you in any other direction, be very careful with what you agree with and what you say yes to, because he will always test your sincerity. He will always test, how much do you really want God? How much do you really want me? Because if he just puts the cake in front of your eyes like this, and you grab it immediately, then what control do you have? What determination do you have? What clarity do you have? Yeah. If the first temptation he offers you, you immediately say, yes, I want it. Yeah. So this is how it works sometimes. But as a general rule, I would say you're much better off not over-interpreting what 10 Guruji means exactly what he says. Yeah, there is no game, there is no test. But there's that one time, and you have to believe in your relationship with him and even trust yourself. You will feel it and you will respond.
I guess it's not our side, right? It's Swami's side that your internet is breaking a little bit.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, because every word is quite important. May I ask you to repeat, because we didn't hear complete sentence.
Sure. So I believe what I was saying is that 9 times out of 10 Guruji means exactly what he says. Yeah. So it's important to just follow that. But there is that 1 time out of 10 where he will be testing you. Mm-hmm. And the only answer is that you have to believe in yourself and believe in your relationship with him, that you will be able to understand that and you'll be able to pass that. And if you don't worry. It's not the end of the world, because he doesn't abandon you, and you will have the chance to learn from it and get it right the next time. You know, I don't want this to be a relationship built on fear. We don't have to be afraid to fail. The best lessons I have learned were the ones where I failed. I don't want to repeat the experience. Don't get me wrong. It's not a nice experience, but I can still see value in it. I learned a lot from those experiences. And so I am not afraid to fail. I don't want to fail. I am not inviting failure in my life, but I am not afraid to fail, because Guruji is always there to give me another chance, and I'm always able to learn something from it.
Okay. So just based on the examples you give, Swami, you give example of how he tasted you and how he tasted Swami Chidananda.
Yes.
It's always like choose like be in the ashram or be in a grihastha. Mm-hmm. So it how to say, it's maybe, I think it reminds me another very popular question, like we're often wondering, is this like you said, he always pushes us closer to God. So is this a very clear difference between brahmachari, rish, Swami, and normal devotee, the distance with God? Can we say that as brahmachari, I'm like more close to God? If I choose to go back to grihastha stage, it's further away.
No,
clarify that point.
Yes, I will clarify that. If you want to know how close a brahmachari is to God, you have to tell me which brahmachari, right? It is not just because somebody is a brahmachari or a swami or a devotee that somebody is close. It does not work this way. But you have to understand, the way he tested me and Rishi Chidananda at the time had everything to do with our paths. We have been set by him on a path towards monkhood. We're not grihastas. And so if he tests us with the attraction of grihastha life, that means it's not right for us. It doesn't mean that it's not right for other people. For other people, the test might be the reverse. He will go to a married couple and say, oh, maybe you can be brahmachari and just live in the ashram and all your problems will go away. But maybe he doesn't want the person to do that, because he doesn't want the person to run away from their problems, but face them, right? And so it's not true that Guruji only wants you to be a devotee or brahmachari or rishi or swami or whatever. Yeah. I will tell you one thing. The one ingredient is love for him, it's humility, and it's detachment from everything that is not him. Okay. Now, the detachment point, theoretically, for the brahmachari, for the swami, etc., it should be easier, right? Because we have less things that we have in our life. But this is why I tell you, you have to tell me who are we talking about? Because some people might not have things on the outside, but they have immense attachment in here, in their minds, right? So it isn't so simple as to say, oh, because now I'm a monk and I don't have external things, I am detached. That's not true. Just as you may have somebody in a grihastha situation who is married, has a household, has a job, and could drop everything like this, has no attachment to it, enjoys it, lives it, serves it, but does not hang on to it, right? This person is more qualified. Yeah, Krishna speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, what is the use of renouncing physically if mentally we still hold on? This is a hypocritical renunciation, and it does not help you advance. So if we really want to advance towards God, yes, you have to detach. So each one has to find their way of detaching. Maybe your path to detachment will be through marriage. Maybe your path to detachment will be through monkhood. It is up to you, and is up to your relationship with Guruji. So for the grihastas, he will test them in a different way than he tests me, right? Because my life path is different to theirs. And so it's not to say that because he tempts us with marriage, it means that marriage is clearly a worse outcome than monkhood. It is for me. It is for Swami Chidananda, because it is not our dharma. It is not the reason for why we were incarnated in this life. But that doesn't mean it's the case for everybody.
Then would you say that the brahmachari, devotee brahmachari and Rishi and Swami, there is a spiritual ranking? I guess that's the most frequently asked question.
You know, there is an organizational hierarchy for seva and for functional operations in the mission. Yeah. And that only really exists from the Swami to the rest, not from the others. A brahmachari is not superior to a devotee, and even a rishi is not superior to a brahmachari hierarchically. That doesn't exist. Okay. These are simply different lifestyles. The Swami has been given a position of leadership, yes. Spiritually, sometimes organizationally as well. That exists. But we have to be very careful about what we're talking about. If we're talking about organizational hierarchy, yes, it exists. As I said, Swami above the others, yes. If we're talking about a spiritual hierarchy, yes, the Swamis have a higher spiritual responsibility, not a higher spiritual blessing. That depends on the Swami. It depends on the devotee. It depends on the brahmachari. How much God blesses you is about how much you love him. It's about how much you're surrendered to him. It's about how much you're dedicated to him. I can't measure that. I have no clue what that looks like. I was giving a satsang the other day in the temple here, and I was saying, what do we really know about this path? Anybody here knows how much karma they have? You know how much punya you have in your bank account spiritually? I have no clue. I have absolutely zero clue how much karma I still have to burn or not, right? We just don't know these things. And we talk as if we know. We talk as if somehow this is common knowledge. Oh, this one is higher, this one is lower. We don't know these things, is my firm opinion, right? I can tell you, as I said, materially, there is a hierarchy for the organization. And yes, as a Swami, I have a higher spiritual responsibility. I have to look after his devotees. I have to look after his sanghas. I have to uphold a standard of behavior, of knowledge, etc., that is expected to me and that has been trusted onto me by Guruji. But that does not make me more spiritually advanced than a devotee or a brahmachari. Yeah, it means I have been given a high spiritual responsibility. Whether I am living up to that responsibility or not is a completely different topic.
Okay. Yeah, that's very clear. I guess.
Good.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned before that you consider Guruji as also your father.
Yes.
Would you say that's a how to say predominant relationship between you and the Guruji?
No, I would say no, simply because some years back I went to him and I said to him, what is our predominant relationship? I asked him the question because I felt like it would help me to know. Are we friends? Are we brothers? Are you my father? Are we romantic? What is the concept that are we supposed to have, spiritually speaking? I don't mean any of this materially, of course, right? The same way we speak about the different bhavs that we have towards Krishna, right? That Krishna can be a child, can be a friend, brother, whatever. And he says to me with a confused look on his face, why do you only want one? And I said, what? It's just for clarity. And he says, but if I'm giving you an experience of all of them, why do you want to limit it? And so I stopped asking, and I never asked again what it should be, because the truth is that he has given me a taste of all of them. And in different moments, I have seen him as my friend. At different moments, I have seen him as my brother, my big brother. Sometimes I have seen him as my father, as I said. Sometimes other things. And, you know, it goes and it comes and it changes. And I don't want to limit it. I don't want to put a label on it, because if he is who I believe he is, then he is everything. It doesn't matter so much. If you ask me which relationship predominates, guru-disciple, he's my guru. That's what predominates. More than anything, I cannot forget that I am his student. Because if I start to forget that one, this is when I get problems in my life.
Mhm.
I have a beautiful friendship with him. Guruji has blessed me with a friendship, and we have spent years talking, just sharing and talking. And, you know, sometimes he will phone me and we'll just gossip. But it's when I start to treat him as an equal, as a friend, and I start to forget my place as a student, as his disciple, as his devotee, that things start to become problematic.
Would you suggest that as a baseline for all the devotees?
Yes, because that is the role he has chosen to take. You may choose a million different roles. You wish for him to be like this or like that, but look at his side. He has chosen to be your guru. He has chosen to come and act the role of a guru. And so first and foremost, respect that and interact with him in that way, which means position yourself as a student, have the mentality of a student. Yeah. And from that, other things may come, and that's beautiful. But the base should be that always. The foundation should always be that. I am the student, you are my master.
Very clear. How about the role of, maybe it's not a role, but how about the concept of God?
Yeah, God is a complicated complicated concept, because, you know, when I speak about God, I must first understand what you believe God is. You know, Guruji for many years, he sent me to religious conferences. So I would go and I would debate against Christians and Muslims and Jews and Buddhists and everything, right? Because I have this interest, but I also have this training. I understand about comparative religion, and I've studied their texts and all of this. And it was very interesting, because the first thing I understood was that if I start talking about God without first understanding what the other person means with the word God, there's no real communication, because I'm saying one thing, meaning one thing, and they're hearing something else. They are receiving my words, but matching it to a different concept in their mind. And so we're not really connecting, and I'm not really telling you what I truly think and feel, because you're applying it to a different standard, right? So when I'm talking about God to a Christian and they think of the God of the Bible, that's not the God that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a different concept of God. And so I first need for us both to reach a common definition of what God is, that we have a common acceptance that this is what I'm talking about when I say the word God, right? So if you ask me the question, do I believe Guruji is God? My answer is yes, but I have to explain to you what I mean by God, yeah, before I can say such a cheap answer. Yeah, if I just say yes, this may mean something different to each of the 100+ people here, yeah? So I have to tell you first what I understand by that statement. Yes, Guruji is God. God for me is the highest experience possible. If I define God by characteristics and by qualities, then in one way, eventually I will reach a limit of my language, a limit of my comprehension, a limit of my perception. Yeah, I can only see so much. I can only understand so much. And so I will try to explain who God is, and I will try to describe him, and I will always reach a wall. Yeah, I will reach a limit. I have read the scriptures. The scriptures say God is like X, Y, Z. Okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand. If you want me to explain the technical term, I can tell you. Bhagavan is the one who possesses 6 qualities, and these are the 6 qualities. Okay, I can do that. But then somebody asks me, but do you think he only has those 6 qualities? Of course, I will say, no, he has more. So already the definition is broken, right? So the scripture tells me one answer, but my heart and mind, my thinking, my rationality tells me the answer is more than that. Bhagavad Gita says God is Krishna. Okay, so Krishna is God. And then they say, but do you believe that there is other forms and other names that God takes? I would say yes. Which ones are they? And I will say, I cannot tell you. Because Srimad Bhagavatam says 25 incarnations of God. And then the next verse says, but actually the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, meaning too many. We cannot say them all. So every time it just pushes towards infinite, no limit, cannot be spoken, cannot be defined. So I like to define God as the highest experience possible. Now, for many people, God is their family. For many people, God is their job. For some people, God is their sports team. And they follow these things like a religion. Nobody will tell you this. Listen to what I'm saying. Nobody will sit there and say, yes, my country is my God. No, no, no. They will not speak it like this. But you observe their life. What is it that they love the most? What is it that they are dedicated to the most? What is it that they consider the most important thing in their life? That is their God. Yeah, that becomes their God, so to speak. So you're asking me, do I believe Guruji is God? Yes, because he is the greatest experience I have had in my life. He is the most important thing in my life, and he is the thing that I dedicate myself to. I am open-minded that if ever I would experience something higher than him, greater than him, more important than him, then he will no longer be my God. But I don't believe that day will ever come, because nothing has even come close to matching the experience I have had from him. Yeah, so this is my first answer I give as to why I believe he is God. And it's completely personal. And nothing that I say about that can convince anybody to believe the same way. Because I'm telling you, it's my number one experience. How can that be your number one experience? You have to see that for yourself. And that, for me, is the only sincere way of religious dialogue between people. Feel what you feel and follow that. Because when you try to convince people based on words, based on something written in a book and in some text, you might make them believe something on a mental level. And they'll agree with you and say yes, until they read another book. Yeah, until they hear a better argument. This is not real. It's so cheap. I used to go to these conferences. I tell you something. They stopped inviting me. You know why? Because
persuasive.
Yes, they had a big problem. All their Muslim representatives didn't want to come back. I filtered through 6 different Muslim leaders because they would come, they would try to convince people based on their books. I would refute them and say, this is wrong, that is wrong, this is not true. I show them something else. They have no answer. They walk away. And so they said, look, sorry, if we keep inviting you, we have no more Muslim representation in these meetings. We cannot do that. So better you go away. And this is how it goes. People want to talk about things in a superficial way, in a mind-based way only, instead of going to the experience. If you ask me theologically, philosophically, can I explain to you why Hinduism is superior to, say, Christianity, Islam, or whatever? Yes, I can. Will that make your heart want to surrender to Paramahamsa Vishwananda? No. It will help you convince some of your friends maybe to defend your position or to have a nice argument with your parents or whoever. Yeah. But will it make your heart transform? Will it make your ego disappear? Will it make you a humble person? Will it make you surrender at the feet of my guru? No, it will not. Only experience will do that. So rather I tell you, go chant some japa. Go practice some kriya. Go do your puja. Go read about the stories of Krishna. Yeah, this will awaken some feeling in your heart, some experience in your heart. This I want you to do. You understand? And then we can have a conversation about what God is. When you have some feeling, some experience, because on ideas, I can tell you whatever you want to hear. Chapter and verse, no problem. But then what? I tell you one thing I do say. God, if he is everything we wish him to be, meaning he gives perfect love, perfect mercy, perfect compassion. Yes? Would you like a God like this? I think everybody would. So, for him to truly be like this, can there exist a system in which you are eternally punished? Can there exist a system in which you can reach a conclusion that you can never save yourself from, like you go to hell forever, that you cannot learn, that you cannot correct, that you cannot solve? Does it make sense to be punished for eternity in hell after living a life of 60, 70 years? So what you do for 60 or 70 years now dictates the rest of eternity for your soul? And this seems fair and merciful and compassionate and loving? No. So on that level, intellectually, yes, that alone should break many religious systems. Because for God to truly be loving in a perfect way, in a compassionate way, then he should be able to give me infinite chances to get to him. Infinite. Because if there is a limit to how many chances he gives me, then there is a limit to his compassion. If he will punish me for any reason other than to teach me and to make me better, then he is punishing me just to hurt me. So then how can he be loving? You see, when a parent shouts at the child has to learn something to become better, no? And we say, this is love. The parent is not being hateful. The parent is being loving to the child, even if it means shouting. So I don't have a problem with God punishing people. I don't have a problem with God being tough on people. That's fine. As long as there is a chance for the person to learn from that experience and grow. Because then that's love. He's trying to make you better. Yeah? But if you punish somebody and say, you can't get out of hell, you are there forever now, enjoy, then there is no lesson. There is no fixing. There is no growth. There is only punishment. This means only hurt. So this is compatible with love? It's not possible. You understand? So mentally, yes, I can present, the differences between religious systems. And for this, there's only one thing needed to change that: reincarnation. As long as there's reincarnation, most of those problems disappear, because reincarnation means you have more chances. You mess up, okay, you come again and again and again and again. Yeah, because he loves you. So he gives you infinite chances. But again, as I told you, if we want to talk about God, Guruji is God, you first have to experience him, and you have to experience what he is telling you to experience. Because this is the other thing. It's not just about loving Guruji, it's listening to Guruji. I love him, but what does he want from me? He wants me to do Kriya. He wants me to do Japa. So if I love him, I will do those things and try to taste that experience that he's trying to give to me. And then we can have a real conversation about who Guruji is. or what God is or whatever. But first we have to taste all this. Before that, it's all intellectual. It's mind level. And we can have that. I just gave you 5 minutes of a sample, right? You have this conversation with almost any Christian or Muslim, they already leave the room. Because there's nothing to say. Now we can have the same conversation with a Buddhist, the same conversation with Taoism, the same conversation with any religion. I can do that. But it will never really truly mean something until I also give you the experience of what Bhakti Marga's path is, what Sanatana Dharma is. Because just ideas will not convince anybody, not truly. In their mind, yes, but their heart, no.
As you already mentioned, that the Buddhism and Taoism, like in China, these are typical traditional religions we have. Yeah, we would love for this opportunity to share some insights from you about this compared with Sanatana Dharma.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, of course, the heart is superior than the head. But if our mind is convinced, it makes easier for the heart to follow.
I know. I teach this stuff for a reason. I have to believe it has some value. Yes, I agree. Okay. Buddhism and Taoism, they share one common trait. And that is that they are primarily humanity-orientated religions. And what I mean by that is that it's about you, your personal growth away from selfishness, from ego, and from suffering. Okay? Now, once that extends from you, it extends to human beings as a species, then it extends to life as a global principle. How to eradicate suffering from life. How to eradicate selfishness and ego from life in general, all living beings, ourselves and everyone else. And that is, of course, a very worthy and a very good objective. The problem is that it presupposes that there is nothing to achieve beyond that. Okay, so for example, if I take a traditional Buddhist mindset, the question, the most basic fundamental question, I have to preface this by saying there are many different branches of Buddhism, and they will offer you very different ideas based on the different branches. So I'm doing a very large generalization here, okay? Because at some point I have to just generalize, because we would spend the whole hour discussing each individual stance, okay? But as a generalization, the most fundamental basic question of the Buddhist is, how do I end my suffering and by extension the suffering of all others? Okay? See that in this manner. It is the subtraction of something from your life. It is not an addition. So you are subtracting, you are taking away suffering, and then you have what is left. What is the absence of suffering? Peace, right? Because peace is not actually something. Peace is the absence of something else. Does that make sense? Peace is the absence of conflict, the absence of misery, the absence of suffering, the absence of hurt. But it is not something itself. Yeah, it's the feeling you have when there is nothing negative. And that is very good. But what Sanatana Dharma is trying to do is, what if we can add something on top of that peace? What if we get the same peace, but then add something to it? So not just remove the negativity, but what if we add one thing? Love. And then the question is, what is love? How does one add love? How does one experience love? Now the question is, love from a finite being to another finite being, so between human beings, for example, is not real. Their Buddhism is right. Why? Because although it may feel good, because it's between two finite beings, it always inevitably has an end, right? And when that end comes, the result of it is suffering. So we're back to the same thing that we wanted to remove in the first place. So Buddhism says these kind of relationships are not worth pursuing fundamentally because they always end in that which we are trying to avoid. So you chase them thinking that the antidote to suffering is pleasure, but pleasure always ends in suffering. So you take a long journey back to the same starting point. I started in suffering. I chase pleasure to solve the suffering, but the pleasure ends back in suffering again. So therefore I have solved nothing. Yes? So the difference is, we are believing in Sanatana Dharma that a different kind of love is possible. And that's the only reason why addition is possible. Because if you add anything material to your life, trying to make it better, you will always end up making it worse because it ends in suffering when you die or when the thing finishes, right? For example, I want to add ice cream to my life because I want to be happy. So I add an ice cream. I'm eating the ice cream, I feel happy, but then the ice cream finishes and I'm back to suffering. So I try to add something, but in the end, the result is not good. So we have to find, is there something I can add that will not end in suffering? This is the fundamental question. Is there something I can add to my being or to my life that will not result in suffering and that has no finish, has no end? And the general answer to this from Buddhism and Taoism to an extent is no. There is nothing to add. Therefore, the path is subtract. There is nothing worth pursuing. There is only things that we have to become wise enough to let go of. And the experience that you will receive when you let go of those things is the reward. So the reward is peace. And that is, again, I'm not disagreeing with that. Peace is a wonderful reward. I'm just disagreeing with the first answer to the question, which is there nothing that we can add that cannot die and cannot end in suffering? My answer to that is yes, there is. And that is the experience that is gained from the interaction between two eternal beings. So when two humans interact with each other and they produce human love, it feels good until it finishes. But when two eternal beings interact with each other out of pure love, when does it finish? It doesn't, because they're eternal beings. Now, they may be corrupted. The experience may become corrupted by what? By ego, selfishness. But selfishness does not belong to the eternal part of us. It belongs to the material part of us. So there we have common ground between Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. That you have to work your ego. You have to go beyond selfishness, beyond your ego. Your ego is your enemy, right? So this is absolutely common ground. But once you have overcome your ego, are you then supposed to stay in a sort of Zen experience of tranquility and calmness and being equipoised, meaning equal-minded? Krishna says yes in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who knows their true self is equal-minded, like a candle in a windless room, he says, right? The flame that never flickers, stable. That would be the message of the Bhagavad Gita if it ended in chapter 6. But it does not end in chapter 6. After chapter 6, Krishna says, but know from where all of this comes from. Chapter 7, 8, and 9, he spends the whole time saying that this all comes from me, from a person, and you should get to know me. Because in coming into contact with me, with the source of all of this, then you have a completely new experience that you have not had so far. And that's the experience Guruji is trying to give. That's what he calls love. Not the love that we experience here, but the love that is possible when there is an interaction between two egoless, selfless, eternal beings. And all it is an invitation. It's an invitation. You have to be curious enough to try to find it. And if you've ever tasted that love that is possible from interacting then you know it's real. You don't have to drink liters and liters of it. 1 drop is enough to know it's real. You understand? I'm not saying 1 drop is enough. I never said 1 drop is enough. Nobody's happy with 1 drop. But 1 drop is enough to know it's real. And once you know it's real, then you have to make the necessary steps to find the source of that drop. Where did the drop come from? You know, you go to a friend's house, they give you a nice thing to drink, and you really like it. What will you ask them? Where did you get it? Yes, right? And then they'll tell you the name of the shop, and then you go and buy it for yourself. So you go to a peaceful person, like the Buddha's disciples went to him, and they said, you have peace, we do not. Where did you get it? And so Buddha showed them how to get peace. That's it. End of story. He laid the path towards the same outcome he had. But so did somebody ask Buddha, oh, but what about love and what about God beyond? No, they didn't ask. So if I go to Guruji and I say, Guruji, you have this immense love. Where did you get it? And he says, up there. I said, okay, so where's the shop? Show me the keys, show me the door. Yeah, this is how it works. And then he gives me the direction to the shop. Do your sadhana, follow me, do this, X, Y, whatever it is that we need to do. And then we go to that shop and then we can have more of that drop. So fundamentally, if I just give a summary, it's like there are some existential questions every human being asks. They all ask, how can I be happy? How can I not suffer? 2 basic questions. And for some people, the answer to being happy is to not have problems. And for other people, the answer to being happy is to have good reasons to be happy for, to have things that make them happy, not just the absence of things that make them sad. And that's the fundamental difference between the religions. It's the answer to that question. So in Sanatana Dharma, we are not satisfied with the answer, eradicate all your problems and you will be happy. We said, no. Yes, I get rid of my problems, but I should add reasons to be happy into my life. I should add sources of joy and sources of love in my life that cannot be taken from me, that cannot die. Those I can trust, nothing else.
Yes, thank you so much. I think it's very, very fundamental understanding for all the Chinese followers. So we can see the time is already close to the end, and we know how busy you are, so we are not trying to extend it by opening an interactive section. So just at the end, I want to express the gratitude again for your time and really all this inspiring sharing. And I also want to invite everybody here, if you are convenient, you can open your camera to say hi to Swami Revatikaanta. So yeah, just let him see some faces from Chinese Sangha. If you want, you can open your mic, of course, to say hi. Maybe you can ask everybody to like unmute.
Jai Gurudev, nice to see everybody.
Yeah, Jai Gurudev. Thanks everybody to be here for such a long 2 hours. Thanks very much for the translator, Panchaka Dasi and Vishwarupini Dasi. Really.
Thank you, translators. I know I'm not the easiest person to translate, so thank you very much.
Okay. So then I wish you all a very nice evening. And for Swami Revatikaanta, very soon it's going to be evening for you also.
Yes. A good evening to all of you. It was lovely to be with you. Thank you so much. And maybe one time we can do this again. Who knows? But
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Swami.
bye-bye. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai
Thank you.
Swamiji. For your
Jai Gurudev.
Maria for
Thank
coming.
you. Jai Gurudev. Thank you.
Jai Gurudev.
Thank you.
Jai Gurudev.
You.
谢谢你，谢谢你。
谢吧。